The rip echoed through the classroom like a mistake that could never be taken back, fabric tearing under careless hands during a bright morning roll call, and as the new teacher stood there with his shirt torn and his dignity exposed, the laughter that followed felt heavier than the sunlight pouring through the windows. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that people can grow beyond their worst moments, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Echo Tales, because stories like this exist to remind us that compassion can be stronger than cruelty. His name was Ethan Caldwell, and it was his first week teaching at Ridgeway Public School, a place known for its energy, its noise, and its unspoken tests for anyone new. The classroom was flooded with daytime light, desks neatly arranged, attendance sheet in his hand as he began roll call with a steady voice and hopeful heart. Ethan had chosen teaching after years of personal struggle, believing that guidance could save others from the paths he himself had barely escaped. He dressed simply, spoke gently, and carried an optimism that had not yet learned how sharp teenage cruelty could be. To some students, especially those who ruled the room through intimidation, that gentleness looked like weakness. The bullies sat together near the back, feeding off each other's smirks and restless energy. They had already decided that the new teacher would be their first target of the year, a way to mark territory and entertain themselves under the watch of classmates who feared becoming the next joke. As Ethan turned slightly to write a name on the board, rough hands reached out, grabbing the loose edge of his shirt. The tear happened fast, sudden and humiliating, leaving a jagged opening that drew gasps and laughter in equal measure. The room froze in a strange mix of excitement and shock, sunlight illuminating the damage like a spotlight. Ethan felt the heat rush to his face, not from anger, but from something deeper and more painful. Memories surfaced of times he had been laughed at, dismissed, pushed aside when he was younger. He stood still, breathing slowly, aware of every eye on him. He could have shouted, demanded punishment, or walked out, but instead he chose a quieter courage. He adjusted his posture, covered the torn fabric with his arm, and continued the roll call without raising his voice, without giving the bullies the reaction they craved. That choice confused the room more than any outburst would have. As the minutes passed, something subtle shifted. The laughter faded into uneasy silence. The students began to notice the steadiness in Ethan's movements, the way he refused to let humiliation define the moment. When roll call ended, he calmly documented what had happened and stepped out into the bright hallway, sunlight following him like a witness. Administration was informed, security footage reviewed, and consequences set into motion with a seriousness that surprised everyone involved. But the true turning point did not come from authority alone. Later that day, during a midday assembly held in the gym bathed in natural light from high windows, the school addressed respect, accountability, and the impact of harm. Ethan stood at the side, wearing a borrowed jacket, not as a victim seeking sympathy but as an educator who believed in growth. The bullies were called forward, their earlier confidence stripped away by the weight of public accountability and the realization that their actions had crossed a line. They saw not just rules enforced, but a man who had chosen dignity over retaliation. What happened next was quiet and raw. After the assembly, in a sunlit corridor where lockers reflected the afternoon glow, the bullies approached Ethan one by one, heads lowered, hands shaking. There were no dramatic speeches, no excuses offered aloud. Their remorse showed in their posture, in the way they struggled to meet his eyes, in the tears that surprised even themselves. They begged for forgiveness not with words, but with genuine regret, understanding for the first time that cruelty leaves scars deeper than torn fabric. Ethan listened, his heart heavy but open. He remembered being young and lost, acting out because pain had nowhere else to go. He chose to accept their apology, not to erase consequences, but to allow the possibility of change. The school followed through with restorative actions, counseling, and service, turning punishment into education. The classroom atmosphere began to change in the days that followed, sunlight streaming in as students participated more, respected more, and learned that authority could be firm without being cruel. Ethan repaired his shirt, but more importantly, he repaired something invisible in the room. Students who had watched silently now felt safer speaking up. Those who had laughed out of fear began to understand the power of standing with kindness. The bullies, once feared, became quieter, more reflective, carrying the lesson of that torn shirt into their daily behavior. What started as an act of humiliation transformed into a shared moment of reckoning and growth under the honest light of day. Just before the ending, take a moment to comment below and share your thoughts on forgiveness, accountability, and the courage it takes to respond to harm with humanity. Near the end of the term, during another bright morning roll call, Ethan stood before the class with confidence earned through patience. The room was calmer now, respectful in a way that could not be enforced but had to be learned. If this story touched your heart, reminded you of the power of restraint, or inspired you to believe in second chances, please engage with this video, because your support helps stories like this reach those who need hope the most. In the end, under the steady light of day, a torn shirt became a symbol not of shame, but of transformation, proving that sometimes the strongest lesson a teacher can give is simply how to forgive.